bear with me. Right, so thank you so much, Guru Chaitanya Prabhu. This is just such a pleasure to share on these verses. So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shlakya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rutpa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Limita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakarpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyali Pashyata Destarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Naram Namaskritya Naram Chiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamati Rayet Nashtaprasya Bhaktreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Right, Hare Krishna everyone. Sorry, I don't know why I suddenly got all throaty. Just trying to get my slides. Okay, so I'm requesting your blessings to be able to share something of value today. I'm very grateful for this opportunity for my own purification. So without further ado, let's delve into the beautiful Bhagavatam. Right. So we're going to be looking at the last 4 verses of this very sweet chapter that describes Krishna's entrance into Dwarka and the rasa between the residents. of Dwarka and Krishna. So there's many nice descriptions from the way they ran to him when he arrived, their prayers to the ecstasy of the queens who embraced him in their hearts. And the previous class by Pajumna Prabhu beautifully discussed the glories of Krishna's lotus feet. So today we're going to be looking at verses 36 to 39, and these are very dense verses and purports. So start reading the Sanskrit with verse 36. Uttama bhava ishunama laval guhasa Rita baloka nihato madano piyasa Samuya japa majahatpa madotamashta Yashendriyam vimatitum guhakirna sheku. So word for word, Uddama, very great. Bhava, expression. Vishuna, exciting. Amala, spotless. Valguhasa, beautiful, smiling. Rida, corner of the eye. Avaloka, looking. Nihata, conquered. Madana, Cupid, or Amadana, the greatly tolerant Shiva. Api, also. Yasam, whose. Samuya, being overpowered by. Japam, bows. Ajahat, gave up. Ramada, woman who maddens. Uttama, of high grade. Ta, all. Yasya, whose. Indriyam, senses. Vimatitum, to perturb. Guhake, by magical feats. Na, never. Shekuhu, was able. The translation is, although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Purport. The path of salvation, or the path going back to Godhead, always forbids the association of women, and the complete Sanatana Dharma or Varnashram Dharma scheme forbids or restricts association with women. How then can one be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is addicted to more than 16,000 wives? This question may be relevantly raised by inquisitive persons really anxious to know about the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. And to answer such questions, the sages at Naimishironya have discussed the transcendental character of the Lord in this and in following verses. It is clear herein that the feminine attractive features which can conquer Cupid, or even the supermost tolerant Lord Shiva, could not conquer the senses of the Lord. Cupid's business is to invoke mundane lust. The whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's arrow. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. A male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female is looking after a suitable male. That is the way of material stimulus. And as soon as a male is combined with a female, the material bondage of the living being is at once tightly interlocked by sex relation. And as a result of this, both the male's and female's attraction for sweet home, motherland, bodily offspring, society and friendship, and accumulation of wealth becomes the illusory field of activities, and thus a false but indefeasible attraction for the temporary material existence, which is full of miseries, is manifest. Those who are therefore on the path of salvation for going back home, back to Godhead, are especially advised by all scriptural instruction to become free from such paraphernalia of material attraction. And that is possible only by the association of the devotees of the Lord, who are called Mahatmas. Cupid throws his arrow upon the living beings to make them mad after the opposite sex, whether the party is actually beautiful or not. Cupid's provocations are going on even among beastly societies, who are all ugly looking in the estimation of the civilized nations. Thus, Cupid's influence is exerted even amongst the ugliest forms. And what to speak of the most perfect beauties? Lord Shiva, who is considered to be most tolerant, was also struck by Cupid's arrow, because he also became mad after the Mohini incarnation of the Lord, and acknowledged himself to be defeated. Cupid, however, was himself captivated by the grave and exciting dealings of the goddesses of fortune, and he voluntarily gave up his bow and arrow in a spirit of frustration. Such was the beauty and attraction of the queens of Lord Krishna. Yet they could not disturb the transcendental senses of the Lord. This is because the Lord is all-perfect, Atmaram, or self-sufficient. He does not require anyone's extraneous help for his personal satisfaction. Therefore, the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. Thus, being satisfied by their unalloyed service only, the Lord reciprocated the service, just like a devout husband. Otherwise, he had no business becoming the husband of so many wives. He is the husband of everyone, but to one who accepts him as such, he reciprocates. This unalloyed affection for the Lord is never to be compared to mundane lust. It is purely transcendental, and the grave dealings which the queens displayed in natural feminine ways were also transcendental, because the feelings were expressed out of transcendental ecstasy. It is already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually his relation with his wives was transcendental, pure and unconditioned by the modes of material nature. Okay, so because there's 4 verses and the purports are very dense, we're going to read the purport to the last verse, and I'll just read the Sanskrit and translation for the middle verses. So verse 37 is, Dhammayam manyate loko hi asangam apisandinam atmobamyena manujam vyaprinvanam yato buddhaha. Translation. The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. Verse 38. Dedadishina mishashya prakritisto pitat gune na yuchyate sadatmaster yatha buddhis tadashraya. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. Verse 39. Dhammenire bala muda strenam janu vratam raha apamana rito bhartur ishwaram matayo yatha. Translation. The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller. The purport to verse 39. Even the transcendental wives of Lord Sri Krishna did not know completely the unfathomable glories of the Lord. This ignorance is not mundane, because there is some action of the internal potency of the Lord in the exchange of feelings between him and his eternal associates. The Lord exchanges transcendental relations in 5 ways, as proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover. And in each of these pastimes, he plays fully by the potency of Yogamaya, the internal potency. He plays exactly like an equal friend with the cowherd boys, or even with friends like Arjuna. He plays exactly like a son in the presence of the Yashoda Mata. He plays exactly like a lover in the presence of the cowherd damsels. And he plays exactly like a husband in the presence of the queens of Dwarka. Such devotees of the Lord never think of the Lord as a supreme, but Think of him exactly as a common friend, a pet son, or a lover or husband, very much dear to heart and soul. That is the relation between the Lord and his transcendental devotees, who act as his associates in the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. When the Lord descends, he does so, along with his entourage, to display a complete picture of the transcendental world, where pure love and devotion for the Lord prevail, without any mundane tinge of lording it over the creation of the Lord. Such devotees of the Lord are all liberated souls, perfect representations of the marginal or internal potency, in complete negation of the influence of the external potency. The wives of Lord Krishna were made to forget the immeasurable glories of the Lord by the internal potency, so that there might not be any flaw of exchange, and they took it for granted that the Lord was a henpecked husband, always following them in lonely places. In other words, even the personal associates of the Lord do not know him perfectly well. So what do the thesis writers or mental speculators know about the transcendental glories of the Lord? The mental speculators present different theses as to his becoming the cause of the creation, the ingredients of the creation, or the material and efficient causes of the creation, etc. But all this is but partial knowledge about the Lord. Factually, they are as ignorant as the common man. The Lord can be known by the mercy of the Lord only, and by no other means. But since the dealings of the Lord with his wives are based on pure transcendental love and devotion, the wives are all on the transcendental plane without material contamination. So, yes, I wanted to look more closely at this point in the purport that Krishna is satisfied by sincere affection and service. This is really important to us as sadhakas, as those practicing devotional service. And it's striking that it's italicized within the text of the purport. So I just thought there's that point that we need extra reflection on this. So this process of devotional service is based on the point that our nature is to love Krishna, and it is inherent, and that this love can be awakened. Rupa Goswami has said, Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathuravasa, Shrimurtira, Shraddha Sevana. One should associate with devotees, chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside at Mathura, and worship the deity with faith and veneration. So these are 5 potent forms of devotional service. It's said that even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. So we can be careful to make sure these things form the core part of our spiritual practice. When we do this, we can understand that our nature is to love God, and we will also receive some spiritual taste from such activities done for Krishna. These activities also form an impression of samskara on the mind and leads to a natural inclination to do more spiritual activities. Our love for Krishna is dormant within us and only has to be uncovered by the activities of bhakti and prayer to the Lord and his devotees. What we actually need is a desire to want to be with the Lord and to serve him. Otherwise, why should we bother to remember and serve Krishna or spend time with his devotees? We can remember this feeling of love and do our best to put this feeling into our activities. We often forget or disregard that Krishna has feelings, and he invests himself into every relationship. Just hearing about how Krishna reciprocates with his wives and goes everywhere with them is especially heart-melting when we keep in mind that he is the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada makes a point in the purport that Krishna is Swarat, completely independent. Yet he reciprocates with anyone who gives affection and sincere service. He doesn't have to do this, but he's attracted by devotion. My spiritual master, His Grace Sankarshan Das, describes devotional service as a love in action. If we don't want to do something for someone, then we don't actually love them. Love is shown by our actions. If we consider the meaning of the word sincere, really sometimes hear that it means to be free of wax and marble, but this isn't actually believed to be the origin of the word. Sincerity is the quality of one who acts in accordance with their thoughts, beliefs, and desires in a way that is honest and genuine. In other words, it refers to being pure, true, and without pretense. If we examine how Srila Prabhupada uses the word, it's really interesting. He also makes the connection between sincerity and intention. For example, in a letter to Malati sent on 23rd of November 1968, he writes, "If you keep your heart in that attitude that you want to become a pure and sincere devotee, you must be a sincere devotee, and Krishna will help you. You have to keep your heart in that way. That is your business." So just to have a desire to want to be sincere and pure in devotional service means that one is sincere. If we can accept the importance of being sincere, we may wonder, how can we become or stay sincere? The practices of devotional service actually help us become sincere, and especially associating with those that are sincere, we often pick up the qualities of those that we spend time with. So also we should be mindful of who we form friendships with. It's also important to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness so we can develop firm faith. Once we're convinced of Krishna's supremacy and sweetness, we'll be attracted to the activities and instructions of Krishna. Our attachments and desires determine our future in this life and the next. Krishna facilitates our desires, and the ultimate goal of life is to achieve Krishna's service. When we sing the Tulsi Arti, there's the line, Seva Digaro Diye, Guru Nijadasi. We request the privilege of devotional service. Without reviving our dormant relationship with Krishna, we can't expect to obtain ultimate happiness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings to the pure devotees, Krishna se tumara, Krishna dite baro, tumara shakati ache, amito kangal, Krishna Krishna bole, dai taba pache pache. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I'm simply your servant, running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. We can't think that we can make it in Krishna consciousness on our own strength. If we remember these wonderful words and imbibe that mood, that serving the devotees is pleasing to Krishna, then we're on the right path. Sorry. We need the association of devotees, and sadhu sangha is a fundamental part of the journey to Brahm. This is confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who says, Sadhu sangha, sarva shastrikai, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhihai. The verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. If we truly value Krishna consciousness, we will seek association of those who have it. Krishna consciousness is more than dry academic knowledge. It's not that at all. It's about a transformation of heart, or more accurately, a clearing of the impurities that cover the heart. A devotee asked Srila Prabhupada how long it takes to become a pure devotee. And he replied that it takes just 1 minute. If you can accept Krishna, surrender to him, and worship him, then immediately one can become a devotee. And sincerity means that we need to be willing to do what it takes to develop attraction and affection for Krishna, as well as associate with like-minded devotees to stay focused on this goal. Krishna will help us if we make the effort. We just need to depend fully on his mercy. The incomparable beauty of Krishna's wives is described along with the point that Krishna wasn't disturbed by them. Even though they could conquer even Kamadev and Lord Shiva, Krishna is described as being full in 6 opulences: wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So no one can impress him by these things. We certainly can't. And it's really encouraging that Krishna was attracted by the sincere affection and service of his wives. To me, it's particularly reassuring because I don't have a particular talent or skill to offer to the Lord, nor do I have much in terms of these opulences. But that actually isn't a barrier to pleasing the Lord. With the Lord being pleased by service, it opens to anyone to be able to please him. We don't require to have anything in particular externally. It's the cultivation of love and a practical demonstration of that love through service, which attracts the attention of the Lord. So examining more what pure devotional service means actually made me think of a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We often find this quoted by Srila Prabhupada in Ya Vilashita Chunyam, Jnana Karmadya Navritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktirodhama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. We hear that the essence of all advice is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. And that falls into Anushilanam. Srila Jiva Goswami talks about the Jeshta, activity, and Bhava, mood. And he explains that the word Anushilanam has two meanings. First, it means cultivation through one's body, mind, and words. And second, it means Manasibhav, to develop sentiments of the heart and mind towards the Lord. And only when the activities of our mind, body, and words are favorably executed for the pleasure of Krishna is it bhakti. And here, anukulyena means a favorable intention. So Kamsa was always thinking of Krishna, but as it was unfavorable, he's not classed as a devotee. We can understand that sincere service can include things that may seem to displease Krishna, such as when Mother Yashoda punishes Krishna by tying him up. But it's actually pure devotional service because Mother Yashoda's intention is to always love and care for Krishna. In contrast, when Hiranyaksha was fighting Varahadev and the Lord was feeling pleasure in the fight, Hiranyaksha isn't classed as a devotee because he didn't have a favorable intention towards the Lord. His intention was to cause harm, and the Lord's pleasure was due to his own sweet will. So the part of Hiranyaksha involved no devotional service. So we see through these pastimes that the intention is key in the activity. Even in the Christian tradition, there's a verse that mentions that the Lord sees, not as man sees, but man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. So we can't trick the Lord. He knows our hearts and the innermost desires within. So applying this to our lives, we're doing something practical. We take our beads in the early morning and start moving our lips. But this is the external cultivation. Alongside it is the bhava. Sometimes we hear a japa meditation or read something inspiring to keep us on track before chanting. Regardless of whether we have the loving mood to chant, we should chant out of duty. But we need to inject feeling into our practices. And also we must be conscious. We hear Srila Prabhupada say, first be conscious and then be Krishna conscious. Really our chanting, it's our measure of our relationship with Krishna. We can't be like the residents of Dwarka and see and serve the Lord directly. But actually we can serve the Lord as the holy name because they're non-different. The hearing and chanting are the backbone of our spiritual life. And for me, I find paying attention shows I'm trying to love. The holy name is Krishna, so we try to hear with attention. And there should be no multitasking while chanting. We can't sleepwalk through spiritual life. We can't calm this bar and fall into mechanical practices. We all have the door open to spiritual experiences, but we block our own way. If we strive to love, then we're on the right path. Krishna consciousness is personal and it involves our emotions. I heard Srila Prabhupada describe a devotee as being someone who has no other business than pleasing Krishna. And this quote, it's really relevant to us. You can discharge your duty very nicely, but you have to see whether you are developing attachment for Krishna. Attachment means love. Whether you're trying to satisfy Krishna, that is the test. So we can use that as a guide for ourselves and our activities. Are we feeling more love for Krishna? Are we trying to satisfy Krishna with our mind, body, and words? We learn in the purports to these verses that the dealings of Krishna and his queens were based on pure transcendental love and devotion, and it pleased him. We're so fortunate to be able to learn about these dealings and how Krishna reciprocates and what's pleasing to him. The other two secondary characteristics mentioned about pure devotional service are that it's anya bilashita shunyam. It's free from all ulterior motives. Pure devotee serves Krishna only to please Krishna and Guru. It does not want anything in return. Pure devotional service is not covered by gyan, impersonal speculation, or karma, fruitive activities. These are dangerous because it takes one away from Krishna. And more than once we see this word unalloyed in the purport, which connects back to the definition of sincerity, which mentioned unmixed. So this is pure devotion. It's free from any other motive other than pleasing Guru and Krishna. So now we can gauge what pure devotion is, and we can try to work towards that. It's progressive. When we try to understand that Krishna is a person and we have a relationship with him, we've just forgotten it, then it becomes exciting to try and earn that remembrance of our original identity. And there are jewels along the way. It's not that we have this arduous, painful journey on the way to Krishna, and then only once we've reached him that we'll be happy. It's not like that. Srila Prabhupada would often say, chant and be happy, because he knew that just the process of chanting can give us more joy than this material world can ever offer us. We just need to try to put our hearts into the process of chanting and serving. One time when a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how can we please you the most? And Srila Prabhupada replied, by loving Krishna. So it really is that simple. It's not about external perfection of any service. We can please our founder Acharya simply by loving Krishna. And this process of investing our love in Krishna is the most important thing. There's a beautiful pastime that demonstrates the importance of feeling. Lord Chaitanya came across a Brahmin who appeared to be reading the Bhagavad Gita. As he was turning its pages, he was crying. But people were mocking this Brahmana's reading of the Gita, as they knew that he was illiterate. But Lord Chaitanya humbly approached him and inquired how it was that he was reading the Gita. And the Brahmana felt that the sincerity, the sincere way that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, and he admitted that he was illiterate. But since his guru asked him to daily read the 18 chapters of the Gita, he was trying to follow his guru's order by just looking at the pages. He was crying while looking at the pages. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, if you're not reading, how are you crying? And the Brahmana explained that when he held the Bhagavad Gita in his hands, he would feel Krishna and Arjuna sitting on the same chariot. The Brahmana felt such affection for Krishna, who is so merciful to his devotee, that he became his chariot driver. Krishna is so great, and yet he can work as a servant of his devotee. And Krishna loves his devotee so much. And overwhelmed by such feelings, the Brahmana would cry at the kindness and mercy of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, saying, you are really studying Bhagavad Gita. So this example really shows how our mood of surrender, feeling affection, and eventually real love for Krishna is all important. And it's the perfection of our sadhana. When we love Krishna, this is the success of our life, regardless of our material qualifications. Also, we can measure our spiritual advancement by the degree of love and affection we have towards the Lord and those who are dear to him. And for those of us who can read in our study of the Shastra or in our Bhakti Yoga practice, the more we are attached to Krishna, the more will be revealed to us on how to make spiritual progress. With Janmashtami coming up, I was thinking of when the Lord appears to Vasudeva and Devaki. He says, both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. So this is a formula to actually connect with Krishna with love and affection. It comes up again and again. Sometimes we make Krishna consciousness more complicated than it actually is. It really is about increasing our love for Krishna. So an obvious question is, how can we increase our love? After all, we can only develop real and lasting consciousness of Krishna when we have some love and affection for him. The process of hearing and chanting isn't just to purify us, it also increases our love. There's the well-known Bhagavad Gita verse, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yoveti tatpata, gyatva deham punarjanma neti mameti sojana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, Arjuna. So hearing about the Lord's wonderful qualities and pastimes not only builds faith in him, but it softens and purifies our hearts and helps us progress in the process of bhakti. When Parikshit Maharaj discovered he was going to face death in 7 days, the prescription for his remaining time was to hear about the Lord. And this divine narration that he heard is available to us as Srimad Bhagavatam. We also have a wonderful benediction in the form of Krishna book. In the preface, Srila Prabhupada said that ultimately, by reading this one book, Krishna, love of Godhead will fructify. So, simply by being absorbed in reading Krishna book, we can develop love of God. It's incredible how much mercy we've been given. We just need to take advantage of it. And it's so important for us to carve out time for Krishna book. This point of Krishna being attracted to sincere affection and service is both an encouragement and a warning. It means that we, even if we aren't so materially qualified, we aren't disadvantaged because Krishna sees our intention and attitude. However, this is also a warning against mechanical practice that is lacking in devotion. We must guard against making offenses, apathy, and a tendency towards impersonalism. Sometimes we try to minimize Krishna's position and elevate our own, and then we end up going towards the material energy with a view to enjoy. But let us be conscious of what we're aiming for. Let us not be directed aimlessly by the mind and senses that can take us anywhere and everywhere. Prabhupada describes Maya as going in like a needle and out like a plow. It's so important to protect our delicate bhakti kripa. We can serve the Lord with affection. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktram pushpam phalam doyam, yo me bhaktya prajati, tadaham bhakti upartham, ashnami pradatmanam. If one offers me with love and devotion, a leaf of flower, a fruit of water, I will accept it. So Krishna accepts something when it's offered with love and devotion. It's not the opulence of the offering. However, he does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee who's not giving with love. An example would be Duryodhana, who offered 56 opulent preparations to Krishna, but he was lacking in devotion. Krishna rejected that, and instead he accepted banana skins from Vidura's wife, who was very affectionate to Krishna. And in anxious excitement, she threw away the fruit and gave him the peels. And Krishna affectionately accepted the banana peels and relished them. In fact, it's said that they tasted sweeter to him than all the preparations and offerings made in Dwarka by his chief queens, Rukmini and Satyabhama. So it's the pure loving exchange that attracts the Lord, and not exactly the external quality of what's offered. Of course, at our level, the external must also be at the highest level we can offer. But Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. He's described as Bhava Grahi Janardana because he takes only the essence of the devotee's attitude. Love means that we should offer Krishna the best thing. It's not that we should keep sumptuous foods for ourselves and offer Krishna just a leaf and a little water. We can't cheat Krishna. Everything belongs to him. So really, how can we offer anything? The only thing we actually have to offer is our love. We can remember that everything is a gift from Krishna. It's just, that's how we can remember that everything's a gift and it comes from him, and we can offer it with love. And that's a proper use of the objects. However, if we use these things to gratify our own senses, then we become implicated and we get entangled in the material energy. Pure love, it's described by Lord Chaitanya in his mood of Radharani for Krishna. Ashlishyawa vada radam panashtumam adashanan marma hatam karuduwa. This is Radharani's love. You either embrace me or trample me down under your feet, neglect me or make me brokenhearted, not being presented in front of me, life after life. Doesn't matter, I still love you unconditionally. He alone and no one else is the worshipful Lord of my heart, and that is real love. That love is existing in everyone's heart, Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti. Our love for Krishna is there eternally, we just need to reawaken it. There's this beautiful verse in Brahma Samhita, Brahmanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasadeva Hidayeshu Lokayanti. So we have to smear our eyes with the ointment of love, and Krishna will reveal himself. Prabhupada explains that one who develops love of Godhead by devotional service always sees the Lord's transcendental form of Shamsundar. That form is revealed in proportion to the purification of the devotee by the practice of devotional service. In Brahma Samhita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Bhava Bhakti is a stage where the salve of love appears in the devotee by the grace of Krishna, and that enables him to see Krishna face to face. And he clarifies the phrase in their hearts means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. So again, we see that cleaning the heart is essential in devotional service. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he's especially inclined towards his devotee. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So we often focus on the fact that the devotees serve to please Krishna, but the transcendental relationship between the Lord and his devotees is dynamic, with the loving exchanges coming from both sides. It's not that the Lord just accepts and it's a one-sided relationship. Krishna is described as Bhakta Vatsalya, as affectionate to his devotees. It's natural. The more someone loves us and shows it by helping us, the more we reciprocate in kind and have gratitude and appreciation for them. When those we serve or help genuinely appreciate our efforts and express their affection for us, that acts as an impetus to do more. So in our loving service to Krishna, we try to please him and his devotees, and really to live our life with love for him. Our affection and love for Krishna can be expressed in all our interactions and relationships. We can try to be an instrument of Krishna's love to others. And isn't that what Sankirtan is at its core? It's to give love to everyone by delivering them from the material world to the Lord's shelter. If we look at the prayers of Queen Kunti, she makes this point that those on the path of material progress can't approach Krishna with sincere feeling. She sees material opulence as unfavorable in approaching Krishna in a heartfelt way. So we need to make our ultimate goal to be Krishna conscious and walk on that path. We do all our worldly duties, but as an offering to Krishna. We can do this by infusing our chanting with love and devotion, by remembering Krishna as a person. And it helps to read and hear about the Lord, to be able to relate to him. In fact, hearing about the Lord is the key process in clearing out all the unwanted things in the heart. As long as we have material desires, there's no possibility of developing transcendental bliss in Krishna consciousness. Bhakti is the desire for material sense gratification, and mukti is the desire for liberation. Srila Rupa Goswami describes bhukti and mukti as two witches, and if they remain in a devotee's heart, not even a fraction of the pure happiness derived from Swarupa-siddha bhakti will arise. So we should be careful of material sense gratification and impersonal liberation, and especially of these subtle things such as desires for fame and prestige. The greed for material enjoyment makes one susceptible to the 6 enemies of the mind, which are lust, anger, greed, delusion, madness, and envy. And envy really easily takes over the heart of the jiva and rules it. And anyone aspiring to serve the Lord has to become detached from this desire for material engagement, material sense gratification. To abandon the desire for this bhakti, we simply redirect our love towards Krishna. Then gradually our temporary love for so many different objects, it will be transferred to Krishna. The purport to verse 39, it explains that Krishna's wives were made to forget his glories by the internal potency of Yogamaya. And from a material perspective, we may think there's no difference between their ignorance of the Lord and the atheist's ignorance of the Lord. But there is a difference. Yogamaya causes Krishna's devotees to forget that the object of their love is God, and this is to facilitate the pastimes. And again, the importance of attitude and intention comes up again. The non-devotee is envious of the Lord's supreme position and minimizes him. The devotee loves the Lord regardless of his supreme position. The devotee doesn't love God out of fear of going to hell. Krishna himself came onto this planet 5,000 years ago, and he brought with him his eternal associates, and he displayed his most confidential and intimate pastimes in Vrindavan. Krishna doesn't want us to suffer in the material world. He wants us to go back to him, and therefore he shows the sweetness of his various loving relationships and his pastimes, so we can become attracted to him and desire to go back to his service. Everyone wants to love someone, and we often place our love in so many places. However, Krishna, he's the ultimate object of love. As soon as we place our love with Krishna, our path of eternal happiness opens. Krishna is so amazing that for the sake of enjoying love, he hides his godhood. He chooses to act as if he isn't God, to have an intimate, loving exchange with his devotees. This is so wonderful and lovable. Isn't it amazing that the Supreme Personality of Godhead chooses to take on the role of a henpecked husband just to reciprocate with those who love him? Isn't it astounding that God renounces what everyone in the material world is chasing, this power and position of controller, just to relish the intimacy of love? The most endearing aspect of Krishna's personality is that though he has love of billions of devotees, he considers our unique love for him so invaluable that he descends to this world to invite us back. And Krishna, he eternally resides within our hearts as a supersoul, and he kindly comes with us as we wander throughout the universe, life after life. He knows everything, and he sees the futility of our endeavor to enjoy independently. Yet through his infinite kindness, he allows us to realize through our own experience, when we show the slightest inclination to serve him, when we show any slight bit of interest in him, he fans a spark and he helps us on our devotional path. Krishna is always making arrangements for our happiness and elevation. He really does help us. We just have to keep our ears and eyes open for his message. I work as a librarian, and I was feeling really down, like I was wasting my precious time working in a slaughterhouse, which is how Prabhupada describes modern education. And I picked up a book to put on the shelf and randomly flicked it open and read the top of the page. And it was called Arjuna's Lamentation on the Battlefield. And I felt that tingle. of Krishna magic. There's almost 8,000 books in my library, and this was the World Book of Poetry, with possibly the only devotional page in the entire library that will be relevant to me in that moment. And it's been more than a decade since I had that reciprocation, and it feels like it was last week. Krishna is such a loving friend, and he can do anything. We just need to be conscious of him, and we can show our appreciation for him through unmotivated, sincere affection and service. So, just to conclude, we looked at the meaning of sincerity, how it relates to intention, and how important it is for any aspiring devotee. These verses, through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, help us understand how Krishna is transcendental. The particular characteristics brought out here, that Krishna is not drawn by the unparalleled beauty of the queens of Dwarka. Actually, he's not attracted to anything material. So we can't attract him with our meager wealth, beauty, or knowledge. What attracts him is sincere affection and service. So this is really important to understand, because it should be something we examine in our own motives while performing devotional service. We looked at the meaning of devotional service, and especially the importance of lovingly serving the Lord. So I'm going to finish here, and if anyone has any comments, corrections, or questions, then please go ahead. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.
Pritha Mataji, thank you so much for a beautiful class. And I request all the devotees to come forward and ask any questions or add any comments.
Hare Krishna, Pritha Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the lovely talk. I came in a bit late. I haven't taken it all in, but I must say how impressed I was, not only with what you were saying, but with all the endeavor that you put into putting that slideshow together. It's a wonderful slideshow, and it's so lovely to have all the pictures there. You know, it really reinforces everything that the words are saying. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Okay, there's some right in the chat. Okay, we have a question. What is the quickest way to disconnect from materialistic world apart from chanting? Okay, thank you very much for your question. As mentioned earlier, hearing is really important, and sometimes we can struggle with chanting, but honestly, just reading Krishna book, that always helps me get away from other things. It's a two-step process. we can't think that we can easily disconnect from the material world if all of our activities are material. But it's really easy. We can just carry around a little verse. I've seen people with a verse in their mobile phone cover, and a quick look at that when you have a gap in the day. It's really, really sweet. So we can do lots of little things that build up, such as having a photo of Krishna as our phone picture, keeping nice, beautiful paintings around the house to look at. And we can think about the holy name. But chanting is really important. So I always say that everything counts. We just pray for help. We can only endeavor, we can't do anything on our own strength. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Hare Krishna. If anyone wants to dive in, I know there's people senior to me here, so if you want to add anything, that would be amazing. I think we might be finished today.
Yes, Mataji, we can end the call here. Session. Thank you so much, Pritha Mataji, once again. Her Grace Pritha Mataji ki jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for a wonderful class.
Wonderful class.
Jai